on that.
And a Fox News alert now, the former Virginia governor, Bob McDonnell, and his wife have now been released on their own recognizance after making their first court appearance this morning. Watched them as they walked in today. It's been a very tough time for he and his wife as they have been going through this process. They were ordered not to leave the country, handed over their passports. The McDonnells are accused of accepting thousands of dollars in loans and gifts from a man who ran a company that made dietary supplements. So let's talk about this case. Anna Yum is a defense attorney and former prosecutor, and Remy Spencer is a criminal defense attorney. Ladies, welcome. Good to have you both here.
Thank you.
Yeah, a couple of big issues here. And you know, we've all read the details of this case, or many of us have, and if you haven't, Mrs. McDonnell, it seemed, was the leader on asking for things. A Rolex watch for her husband, perhaps, Louis Vuitton bags. She needed an Oscar de la Renta dress for inauguration. She complained that they didn't have enough money to cover the expenses. And the man that you see, not in this picture, but in the last one, was very generous and you know, lavished them with gifts. The question is there a quid pro quo? That is what needs to be proven here, that he got something political in return. Correct, Remy?
That's absolutely right, Martha. The evidence does not appear to show any link, first of all, between the governor and Star Scientific's or John Williams, who happens to be immunized by the federal government in exchange for his testimony. However, the email correspondence between the governor's wife and John Williams may tend to show that she did some things that were questionable. But that's not the standard in a federal criminal case. The government has to prove that the governor knew if, in fact, they're trying to prosecute him, which they are, for his misconduct in office. So the proofs here are very weak, and they rest almost entirely on Johnny Williams' word.
Anna, do you agree? Is this a weak case?
No, not necessarily. I don't really think it's a weak case yet. Obviously, all the facts are not presented yet. But when I read this 43-page indictment, Martha, the overall theme that I saw, and if I was the prosecutor on the case, is that this case is about greed and entitlement. The overall theory is that, of course, this was an elected official and his wife who self-admittedly had some serious economic problems. And the indictment says that they sought help from this financial entrepreneur in exchange for promoting his product. Now, these are not normal gifts that friends give to each other. I mean, we're talking about a Rolex, we're talking about, like you said, Martha, $5,000 worth of dresses and Louis Vuittons, and $15,000 worth of catering fees for their daughter's wedding when he didn't even meet the daughter. So I think that the government will piece by piece have to tell a story and have to show by the totality of the circumstances that there's more to this story than what we think, that there was some sort of understanding for in exchange of these gifts to promoting this man's product.
Well, I think the key word is gifts, and gifts are not illegal. You cannot be convicted in a federal court and sentenced to 30 years, which is what the governor and his wife are facing in this 14-count indictment, for gifts. There has to be proof that there was something in exchange.
Yeah, they have to prove the quid pro quo. And there's also a question in this case of possible obstruction of justice. And that we'll get into as the case sort of goes forward. But that's another thing that is a possibility for what they may find the McDonnells guilty of. We'll see. We'll see. This process is just beginning, as we pointed out today. All right, let's move on to another very serious topic, because we're very concerned about the cheerleaders in the NFL and whether or not they're getting paid what they should be getting paid. This is a woman who calls herself Lucy T, and she is ticked off. Watch.
The number one goal, I hope, to come out of this lawsuit is to have the Raiders change their policies and procedures and to treat the Raiderettes from here on out with respect.
So she says, Anna, that they are paid anywhere from $5 to $8 an hour when it all comes down to it, that they travel, they go on the road, that they have a very tiny salary that, you know, really boils down to less than minimum wage in some cases. They don't get paid till the end of the season. They get no overtime, and that they get fined sometimes for minor infractions. I'm curious what some of those might be. But what do you think? Does she have a case?
Yeah, I definitely think she has a case. I think that the Raiders have an uphill battle in this case. And that fine that you were talking about, Martha, was for bringing the wrong pom-poms. They get fined for that. Look, these Raiders cheerleaders, these cheerleaders' rights are being thrown to the sidelines, no pun intended here. There are so many illegal provisions in this contract that I'm glad that it's being exposed for the injustices that there are. I mean, for instance, one of the provisions was that the Raiders cheerleaders have to agree that as a condition of employment, they agree never to sue the Raiders. That's not enforceable. And then, of course, the whole aspect of not being compensated for out-of-pocket expenses here, whether it's time at a photo shoot, whether it's hair and makeup costs, whether it's travel to photo shoots. And under California law, an employer has to pay for out-of-pocket expenses or indemnify the employee for those kind of expenses within the course of their employment.
And Anna clearly thinks that there's
a lot of injustices here, and I'm glad that this cheerleader is coming forward and speaking up for herself.
I think Anna might be a former cheerleader because she's very passionate about this topic. I got to tell you, Martha, I think this is nothing more than trying to gain leverage in salary negotiations. I think a lot of Americans are probably surprised to see what these cheerleaders actually make. It's less than what I thought. But the question is, does she have a legal claim to stand on? And I don't think so. Her calculation is based on practice and time spent getting ready for cheering. That's how she comes up with her hourly rate of $5 to $8, and she claims is less than what she should be getting. But think about a teacher. You get paid to teach. You don't get paid to grade papers. You don't get paid more to prepare on the off hours. I mean, that's really what she's asking for.
We've had doctors on this program that claim when you boil it down, they make about $10 an hour.
That's right.
So it's a choice in terms of what you want your career to be. But if there are contract infractions, as Anna points out, she may have a case here. Ladies, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Remy and
Martha.
Anna. I was a former cheerleader, too.